He's my too.
Welcome to Coffee with Traders, episode 6. Here with the gang. I'm the Bulgarian.
The key is here.
Z Money.
The ambassador.
And the rogue.
Okay.
So,
Hi.
gentlemen.
You
How you
always
guys
say that
doing?
a little bit fruity.
Rogue, some
Yeah.
like deep voice kind of thing.
So, tell me now, this you guys just told me that there was potentially a peace treaty talk this morning. That's why oil's down. What's happening there?
So, I mean, I don't want to say it's a peace treaty talk, okay? Because we've been all over the place, all right? So, like, I mean, as our viewers know, as we're all watching the news, everything that has come out has been so ridiculously uncredible, right? And so ridiculously double-sided that we don't even know where we're going anymore, right? As in, like,
The people.
the population, right? The general
nation.
populace,
The
right?
nation.
Yeah, the nation, right? And so, like, we saw, this article from Axios come out saying that there's a one pager about a 14-point proposal where Iran is finally giving away their uranium, and then the guy comes out and says, well, that's completely false because that's an American wish list, right? He called it an American wish list. Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure you can speak to a little bit about this too, but everything's just been so double-sided.
Yeah, man. It's
Say a lot of
just
fake news.
yeah, exactly. It's just so confusing now where you're like, okay, there's one article saying they just blew up a tanker, and then the next article saying, well, we just had a whole ceasefire happen. And then you're like, okay, so even the market sometimes is like, it just stays there because everybody's clashing right now. People are saying, oh, the peace treaty is over, so you're seeing selling happen, but then you start seeing tankers get bombed and the small boats, the Iranian boats that got hit, those ones get hit. Then you're like, okay, so what is actually happening? You know?
And
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I got something else to say is we can't really trust these tweets out like at all, honestly, because the other day I saw this tanker got bombed, and then the next day they said it wasn't a tanker, it was a civilian boat, and it got 5 people killed. Literally civilians just got killed. So can't really trust these people.
Yeah,
Like
there seems to be
anything
a
they
lot of
say.
misinformation and fake news, especially on the topic, because I think the market is so volatile. So I think that there's certain people out there that are probably putting out tweets or different social media posts to manipulate the market in some ways. Because, like, even with some of the things coming from the White House, they're saying, "Oh, this is a negotiation. This is happening," and then you get something from Iran directly that says this is not happening. This is they're not being accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you want to know the stupid thing? This was the funniest thing to me out of all of these things, right? When Project Freedom came out, right? The Truth Social posted Project Freedom.
Wait,
came
before
out.
you go on,
What is
what
it?
exactly is Project
Okay,
Freedom?
yeah.
What is
So
Project
Project Freedom was like set out by our administration, which was supposed to be a guarantee for specific tankers to cross safely across the Strait of Hormuz.
This is
okay? This
the
is
U.S. blockade.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
part of the U.S. blockade. Part of it is Project Freedom, this new thing
Mhm.
where they were going to secure ships, right?
When did this
Co-
start?
Huh?
When did this start?
This came out like maybe what, 2 days ago, 3 days
Yeah,
ago.
a couple days ago.
Okay, but here's the really funny thing. Okay, when it came out, oil came down. Okay, now listen. Now, yesterday, Trump says Project Freedom is paused. Okay, and guess what happens when Project Freedom is paused? Oil comes down. Okay, so so the market is an absolute idiot because when Project Freedom comes out, oil comes down. When it's suddenly paused, oil comes down. How does that make any sense? So the ships not being secured now suddenly makes the price of oil fall.
So then what you're inferring to is that there's probably some manipulation happening in the markets. People are forcibly bringing down the price of oil because they're scared of recessions, they're scared of all the other stuff. We also had the data report come out last week that showed that inflation is the same, all that stuff. But I'm sure the people would definitely agree that gas prices are higher, inflation is high, everything is high, but there's like this entity, or like this force pushing down the prices of oil and pushing down this stuff artificially.
That force and entity, in your speculative opinion, is
Unknown for now.
unknown.
They
for
they
now.
just they just want to deceive the people, so people are not scared, not to like panic. They just want to keep people calm, you know.
I saw some tweets. Well, I don't want to say tweets, but some blurbs from Europe where people were complaining about us complaining about gas prices. Like, oh, you're paying over $6 for a gallon.
Yeah.
That's how many liters? And they're like, you're paying $6 and you're complaining about it. So I can only imagine what the situation is in Europe. But interestingly enough, I want to bring up something that just came across my desk last week. Uh, and it was the shutting down of wind farms across the United States and offshore due to a national security threat.
Mhm.
And I looked into it a little bit, and I'm like, okay, so they say that the reason it's a national security threat is because the propellers are causing issues for the radar. Okay.
Hmm.
However, this was already previously approved by the Pentagon on several occasions. So if I'm connecting the dots from the Venezuela thing to the now Iran thing to now all of a sudden we're shutting down solar or wind farms, and the companies that operate these wind farms are offered millions of dollars in government credits to convert to oil and gas.
Well, you think this is kind of a move because now among Venezuela and Iran, all the other stuff we're in, and losing ties within NATO and Europe and all that stuff. What is our next plan, guys? Cuba.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's like
Absolutely.
we're
And
gonna
we-
take over Cuba
Yeah.
immediately.
Wasn't there a Russian warship spotted near Cuba?
I think so. I did.
Yeah,
I
it
did.
was either a warship or a submarine. I'm not.
I
like,
did read that.
Trump
yeah.
Trump said on the way back from Iran, he's gonna stop by Cuba, like a little drive by, take it over and then come back to the U.S.
Okay, but like for the viewers, this is how you can kind of identify a theme across our administration. Right now, the bully knight is not here today. Obviously, he would have something to say about, this may be a part of a bigger plan for the benefit of the American people. So we'll give him that, right? But we can see that, we've known since the start, right, that this is a chaos-driven administration, right? One thing after another. Venezuela, Iran, like the Rogue said, Cuba's next. What's after that? Who knows? What do you think? Turkey?
Turkey.
What
would be
about
interesting.
Pakistan?
I mean, I don't
Because you're
think we
from
have a
there.
lot of oil to give to the world in that sense. But I mean, it's a wild like domino effect that continues to happen.
Now, you guys as traders, how has this been affecting you over the past month? Because I know we talk about the current events and all that jazz, but as Candlestick Men, how has this whole scenario, the ups and downs, the tweets on a Friday and then the invalidation on Mondays, how has that affected you guys in your portfolios?
I mean, I think it's made us keen to the manipulation. Like we see it front and center. One day we're seeing like oil coming up, all of a sudden it just drops like $10 or something like that, and there's nothing to really tell you why. And then the next day, something that's gonna be tweeted and it's gonna pump right back up. And so I think we just became so like aware of that at an earlier stance than maybe other people.
Yeah, it made us a lot more careful. Like we haven't taken a trade probably in like a month now because of all the manipulations been going on. Like the other night, I was thinking about taking a position on oil, and literally, if I had taken that position, the next day Trump tweeted out something, and it would have ruined the entire trade. And it was complete bullshit, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not taking trades right now, and we're just observing and watching the markets right now.
But at a point like this too, like as traders, we obviously, in some way, shape, or form, we can't be completely stagnant, right? And so there comes to a point where we can't just sit on our hands, and so we have to find the next trade, right? And so I think, we were actually like the Rogue and I and the Bully and I were just discussing that over text. Is that there's sectors that if things continue to be manipulated, we're seeing movements in, right? Rare earths, like we talked about last time, was one. Another one is nuclear energy, right? So, and I think there's one other one. Right?
Quantum as well has been. If you looked at it, almost all of the highlighted stocks in that sector have been up 10-15%. Yeah, that's among with all the wars and stuff like that going on, the Nasdaq and S&P all creating new highs and just blasting off. But I think you bring up a very good point, and I also want to build up on what you mentioned about how like South Korea, for example. South Korea is a big hub for technology. Taiwan, big hub for technology. There's these constant clashes that are happening that are affecting these amazing sectors otherwise. So you have like everybody knows, you got like Nvidia, all of them. These are really strong companies. Taiwan Semiconductors, they're really strong companies, but a lot of them got heavily affected. And this kind of brings up that point where now that oil's coming down, now where do we go as good traders? And like you mentioned, now you're like, okay, let me rotate into something good. We were talking about this earlier. Rotate into an asset that will actually be worth it, not because there's a high opportunity cost when you're trading sometimes, and sometimes low. And as a trader, you have to figure that out. If you're in oil when quantum sector is booming and nuclear sector is working, and rare earths has been a very good play throughout the war. So that is something to definitely think about for our viewers out there.
Oh, so
You
we
know,
got a comment over there. I don't
Check
know
it
what
out.
it says.
Let's see if we got a comment. Let's see. Can you see a comment?
Market was good yesterday.
Okay, nice.
Well, what specific market? There were
Which
some markets
market?
that have been doing good.
Yeah, thank you for commenting, by the way. We appreciate your engagement with us.
Very much.
And while you're answering, myself, I'm looking at different markets, right? Because I'm not a full-time trader like you guys, but I do trade with some of my money on the side. And I'm looking at gold. Gold's going down. Okay, so that's not a good place because gold was down. It's been down what, a couple $100 over the past week or so.
It's up again.
Yeah, now it's up.
Yeah.
So it's like there seems to be nothing that's stable right now. I mean, from what I understand, AI is down. The AI stocks are down still. Gold's down. Oil's obviously down. I mean, crypto even. I asked you guys about crypto earlier. It just seems like everything is really just extremely fear-driven right now
You're very right.
versus greed. So
You're very right. And you bring up a good point about mentioning crypto. And crypto has been that sector, everybody knows about the crypto cycle, the 4-year cycle. But now we're starting to see certain coins, like the privacy coins, that a couple months ago, you guys remember that when
Yeah.
Zcash was going up to close to $1,000, everything was just moving. Now we're starting to see that again. We're starting to see Dash come up. ZEC, if I'm not mistaken, hit $550 this morning. So we're starting to see more attention come towards crypto again, specifically the privacy coins. And then that kind of also goes on with the overall theme that
what are
There's-
some of the privacy coins?
you got Zcash or ZEC as a ticker.
And what is a privacy coin exactly for our viewers who don't know?
The key to this.
Yeah,
one.
well, so a privacy coin is essentially it's like so if we have like our traditional cryptocurrency, right? So like something like Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin works off of like the traditional blockchain, and that blockchain allows every single person who participates and who doesn't participate in the transactions to see what's happening, right? So if you sell Bitcoin or if he sells Bitcoin, I can see it, right? It's trackable on the blockchain. Now, when it comes to privacy coins, right, they are our avenue, right, or people's avenue to secure their transaction and their transaction history, right? And so when it comes,
Interesting. That's been the biggest issue with crypto.
exactly.
Has been the vulnerability and being able to see exactly what you're doing all the time.
Yeah, and if you want to hear a funny story, actually, so recently, I can't name any names here, but I was talking to someone who likes to talk a big talk, right? And they were talking about wanting to buy 50,000 Bitcoin.
Hold on, are you
Okay.
talking about Rayon right now?
No.
No, I only buy lots of 10,000 in Bitcoin for now.
Yeah. Keep in mind, 50,000 Bitcoin is like what, like Michael Saylor, like MicroStrategy. That's how much they buy.
I don't
okay?
even. How much Bitcoin does MicroStrategy have under their?
I can't even speak to
I
that.
couldn't tell you, but they have a good percentage of the total supply.
Hold on, I gotta look this.
Yeah,
up.
but
Let me look this up
while
here.
you're looking that up, so
Yes.
this guy was telling me that he wanted to buy that amount, right? But what he wanted to do was buy it through a private wallet, okay? A private wallet with less than 100 transactions, and that wasn't on a central exchange, right?
818,334 Bitcoin. That's
There you
Wow.
go.
How much is that?
Wow.
That's
like-
multiple billions.
Yeah, that's a bit.
That's a
That's a
bit.
But anyways, so the thing is that as much BS as this guy was spitting, right? This is a real desire for some people, right? For some people that have a lot of money, they want to hide their transactions. They want to be safe, right? They don't want people to see where their money is going, right? And although cryptocurrency provides that decentralized aspect away from the government, it shows our transactions. Everything's public on it. So yeah.
I think you bring up a good point because, like we were saying, the overall theme is people want to get away from the markets are being heavily manipulated by whether it's the governments or the work or the war. I mean, so people are now they want to get away from all of this stuff. They want to get away from, like, we were talking to some guy the other day, if you remember, that he's like, man, I think I'm just gonna leave and go to live in Thailand. And the other guy we're talking to is, yeah, I'm gonna go live in Peru just because I want to get away from everything and live my own peaceful life on his farm. He's thinking about the future beyond AI, like we mentioned before, start building positions in farms and all that stuff because he believes that that's the less headache free. He has more control over that. And privacy coins do that for crypto. Crypto generally was that platform where you can transfer money all across the world in minutes.
Yep.
So
Well, it's in digital currencies, which is what Bitcoin is. Although
Yeah.
I doubt many people. Well, I'm sure the adoption's getting better and better.
Yeah.
Every day, every month, every year. But if you look at China, they have a digital currency.
Mhm.
And so it's interesting to see how there's an epidemic going on allegedly in China where people who have too low of a credit score get their wallets turned off
Mhm.
and then they're homeless.
See, that's the problem
That's
because
crazy.
And then so imagine if you're in a country where you have no cash, they don't take cash, they only take your whatever.
wallet.
It's a very dystopian type of situation. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of great videos that come out of China about their technology, but they don't show you some of the dark side. And this is, I think, one of the dark sides with digital currency. And I want to make sure I understand what you're telling me is from what it sounds like, privacy coins eliminate the ledger in a sense to where they don't know who bought what.
Mhm.
They're not going to know that I bought Chinese robot legs with my privacy coin
Mhm.
versus Bitcoin. They're going to see a transaction to a wallet in China.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Wow.
See, and that brings
That's
up a
great.
good point, specifically since you like conspiracies, and we all love conspiracies here.
Conspiracies? What's that?
But we could see that in the future where now you're having countries like El Salvador and China, all stuff, they have their own stablecoin currency. And that brings up the question, how the Federal Reserve, they have specific activities that either boost cash, like the amount of cash that's provided in society, or do specific actions that raise the currency's value or lower it, like cutting rates and raising interest rates. Is that going to be something we see in the future where just stable coins and stuff like that is just they cut off the supply on everybody
I
just
have a
one day?
theory on this. In fact, I have a whole. I mean, and this is not my own personal theory that I came up with, but I've read enough information and fake news documents and leakers from the CIA and other stuff. And the plan is, and it's so far it looks like it's happening, is basically AI is taking over. AI is going to eliminate a lot of white collar jobs. There's going to be a lot of people with tons of student loans, unable to find a job, having to do basically work for the big corporations that are going to take over and take over those little mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
Now, the idea here is when there is a collapse like that, because the economy, we're a capitalistic society, we can't sustain without people purchasing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're going to end up doing a digital dollar and tie it to a universal income.
You're very right.
And at that point, you're going to be pretty much, because China, I think a lot of this administration, or again, this is from a conspiracy standpoint, they're taking certain aspects. They're seeing China as kind of the testing ground for what will work and what won't work. And I think from a control standpoint, I mean that's a great one. Oh, you want to get free money? Okay, you have to sign up for no more cash, digital dollar. Everybody's gonna have to vote for the digital dollar, and then you're locked in.
Just as one point to challenge that really quickly, I think China. By the way, like I see what you're saying, but I think China's actually in a really powerful position right now because their court recently ruled that AI cannot take over certain jobs. Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so the certain jobs in China are completely like AI proof, right? Not by like actual, the fact that AI can take over, but the fact that the court ruled, hey, just because it's cheaper, you can't do it, right? And so I think China is in a really like interesting position right now because they can totally come out and say, hey, we're going to be the first country, right, that the first empire that like rises against this AI, right, and protects their people. And then people are going to be like, well, that might cause an uprising in different areas of the world, maybe even here, right? Where people say,
Yeah.
how come China's doing it, right? How come China has
You're
this?
very right.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, everybody's been getting scared now. Everybody's been planning for this. And we even talked about this last time where we want to move towards a beyond AI movement. But that brings up a very, very good point. I kind of forgot for a second, but I just remembered now. But if there is an ability for China to have this control, is China going to be the like new superpower per se? Because then maybe other countries are going to want to adopt. Now you're starting to see that.
And then let's talk about, do you think now that America is where it's at with Iran, depleting resources, do you think they're going to make a play for Taiwan?
See, honestly, I personally, even though there's a
Because they've been
tension,
wanting to for a
Yeah.
long time, and they've been threatening, and there's been issues. There's been a lot of conflict there.
They flew over them like a couple months
Yeah.
ago.
So I mean, now is the perfect time because like, what are we? Who are we now to say? Well, you can't go into Taiwan. Well, we just went into Venezuela. Now you're going into Iran.
but who's going to say that's the problem? They just did that with Venezuela. Just did that with Iran.
That's what I'm saying, though. Yeah.
Who's putting them in who's putting them in check is the question. But
Yeah.
the
Or are they
reality
going to
is-
be put in check?
Exactly, and that the reality is, if that doesn't happen, we could start seeing a large escalation worldwide, and then people are going to start shifting towards certain areas. So you might see three majorities stable coins. You got the yuan,
Yeah.
you got probably the euro or the pound, and then the dollar. So, but most countries, like the European countries, are getting fed up with the way America has been getting into wars and stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want to be a part of that. We saw this in Iran.
Well, I
where
think a lot of Americans don't want to be a part of it.
not a lot of nobody
Yeah,
wants unless they're benefiting.
nobody wants to go to war with Iran.
Nobody wants
you
to
know,
go to
nobody-
war, period.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to live our peaceful existence.
Exactly.
So,
So that brings up a very good point where we might start seeing people shift towards using the yuan currency. Like this war brings up and like sheds light on that. Now, Iran is saying, you know what, we're gonna sell in yuan. And we saw this back then in Libya when they wanted to sell using the gold dollar, and in Iraq where they wanted to use different currencies. So we saw what happened there, and we could see that happen in the future if people start shifting towards the yuan. You know,
yeah, but what happens if China? Because I've heard this is definitely a conspiracy, but I heard the conspiracy that the families that run China, right? They have stacks and stacks and stacks of gold, and the long play move for China was to go to a gold-backed yuan.
Mhm.
That's the big power move.
Yeah.
Now imagine if they do go to a gold-backed yuan, because the dollar is not backed by anything, right? Necessarily.
Yeah.
If they have a gold-backed yuan, how is that going to change their position in the world? How is that going to change the rest of the world as far as
Wait,
who
the
is an
dollar
actual
is
power?
backed by something.
No.
Backed by the military.
Well, yeah, the petrol.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
the
technically,
petrodollar.
Which
yeah,
is a
yeah.
big problem.
But look at what happened when they started getting bombed by Iran. They didn't have the munitions to stop the incoming wave of drones.
I mean, it's
So,
a lot
and
of-
that
it's a
and,
lot
the,
of
and a
drones.
lot of those Middle Eastern doesn't matter though. The Middle Eastern countries started raising an eyebrow. Well, why do we have this protection with you? Why are we on the petrodollar? Because that's the only deal. That's the only reason they're on the
But I
petrodollars
feel
for
like the
protection.
U.S. isn't using its full potential, to be honest.
I completely agree.
But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
also a fact of they used to play by intimidation. Remember the tariffs? We're gonna tariff you guys
Yeah.
if you guys don't do this, and everybody bends a knee.
Yeah.
Now nobody's bending a knee. No more.
Nobody's bending a
Europe
knee.
is standing up. Spain standing up specifically. Italy, they're all saying we're not gonna bend a knee no more. If you want to do this on your own.
Well, you have to also understand, like, so the question that Kareem just asked, right? This conflict is not going to go just back to being normal, right?
Mhm.
Forget the oil supply
Big
shock.
fallout.
Forget the structure of the Strait of Hormuz, right? 20% of like oil supply, but in addition to that, shipping, manufacturing. Iran is not going to go back to an original state of the control over the Strait of Hormuz. Today, I believe they just published a new website on the authority, like literally titled like the Persian Authority on the Gulf, right? It's a new website. So like, you know how we were talking about aliens.gov, that Iran published this website. And so like also from the personality, like people don't realize how long countries like Iran, China have been around,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They've been around a lot
Thousands
longer
of
than
years, yeah.
a lot longer than the US, right?
Yeah.
So when we like, you know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but when we quote unquote insult a people like Iran, right? Like some people think that they're just like living with like sticks and huts. No, that's not the case.
Camels and
Yeah, Like Iran
Some of
is
them are.
Iran.
Some of them are.
I mean, some regions sure, but Iran is
Yeah,
not.
but have you seen some of the backwards places here in the States, bro?
Yeah,
It's not as close as that. you know?
exactly. I mean, like Iran's not a joke, right? Like
Yeah.
this is a country with like
It's not a third world country.
yeah. This and so when we do this, right, we have permanently now changed how global oil supply, at least 20% of it, is going to function, right? And in addition to that, if they decide, like you said, like Kareem was asking, that they don't want the petrodollar anymore and they're going to only accept Chinese yuan, which is something that they've already tried to do,
Yeah.
that's going to be big.
I hope you guys are holding on to gold.
Yeah.
At that point.
holding on to yuan.
Yeah. That's
Can you
it.
talk about why the UAE left the OPEC?
Oh, well, I think the Rogue mentioned this in our last podcast, but like so essentially OPEC is something that controls, like OPEC and OPEC plus, that they control the global oil supply, right? So the UAE leaving OPEC means that they no longer have a cap on the oil that they can produce, right? So they can produce upwards of $1 million, a million barrels, right? And so when it comes to them no longer having to listen to OPEC's supply, they can produce more oil, which injects more supply into the oil market, which may bring down the price, right? So
Now,
that's
does that benefit the U.S. in some way, or this administration?
It could.
Do you want to speak to that? Yeah.
It could in
I
the
know we should
sense
probably
of,
wrap it up.
yeah, it could in the sense of the U.S. might start having specific alliances with the UAE specifically because they say, you know what, we're lacking oil right now, and we don't want the OPEC or OPEC plus to control amount of supply because we need to get back into production, we need to supply, and we want to be in control of the oil. So what the U.S. might want to do is partner with the UAE and be like, you know what, we want to be in control of oil now, not just let OPEC do it, because that way, even if they do deal with the yuan, then the U.S. has control over the amount of oil that's produced and the price that is charged at. So they could benefit from it. That's if the UAE is cool with that.
Now, could the UAE have left OPEC prior to this war?
I think this was a really big catalyst for them to be like, you know what, we're stepping away from this now because we believe that since there's a shortage, we're not making as much money as we can and we're not being protected anymore. So there's no point of us staying with it. But before, there was really no excuse, and then the UAE probably would have faced some sort of maybe sanction or something like that to control oil supply.
Yeah, there was no reason for them to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also keep in mind, oil before the war was at like what, $45 a barrel?
50 to
50,
40
yeah,
to
50,
60.
yeah, 50 to 60,
So
right?
it's doubled.
Yeah. I mean,
Somebody's making some money.
It
Yeah.
should be tripled right now.
So-
Let's be honest.
So as we wrap this up, what is some of the things that you guys are gonna do to moving with this after this conversation, moving into the future? You want to hold more yuan, or hold more stable coins and privacy coins,
I'm gonna
or
ride my bicycle more.
go to Thailand and get a farm?
I'm gonna
What
wake
are
up-
some things you
I'm
guys are
gonna wake
planning
up
to
at
do?
5 and ride my bike to work. That's what I'm gonna
That's a
do.
good idea.
Save that $6 a
Yeah.
gallon.
go ahead then.
It's gonna take me 10 days to get here.
Me,
We'll make our
I'd
way
like
down.
to get some privacy coins for sure. Be a little secure with my transactions because I know they're watching.
So when you're on like www.howdoigettaller.com, you don't want them to see how you bought the
Yeah,
taller
yeah.
How do you
filters.
know about that URL, bro?
Because I used it before.
You know, it's a real like procedure. You
Yeah.
can.
Oh, yeah, the height extension.
How much does it cost?
I'll call you.
Oh, we almost got him.
No wonder you have a weird limp in your walk.
That was because of the cliff jumping when I jumped off the
What referral
skyscraper,
code
the
should
the
you
ledge
use?
the ledge jumping.
or when you're going to like Turkey to get your hair transplants or something like that. Maybe.
The referral code is Rogue is looking for a different extension after this.
We're good there. We're good there.
Nice.
What about you?
Yeah, I think gold's my safe haven. It's been around, for as long as we can remember, and the price in the past year, I mean, alone has gone crazy. So I think that's just a safe haven, if anything.
Yeah, I agree with Z Money. I mean, to our viewers, right? Like, and the Mal Bulgarian was mentioning this, right? Like, pay attention to what the central banks are doing, right? The Chinese central bank has been buying metric tons of gold, large amounts of it. Go look at the statistics. Go do that research. Gold is an asset, right? That is going to continue through time and time to prove that it will go up in price because our currencies, our paper currencies, as they stand today, are very fragile. Right. And then the second thing I would mention is like we're going to keep mentioning this, right? This beyond AI concept. So continue to look into rare earth metals, right? Continue to look into nuclear energy. These are different sectors that are going to, you know, as tensions continue to evolve, will prove to be the sectors where money will flow into.
I think before you wrap up, I'll say my point.
Yeah.
I personally, I think I'm gonna move to Thailand or something like that, maybe Taiwan.
we know he would.
Sorry,
Yeah.
all right, buddy, all right.
We know why too.
I wanna farm. I do not want the lady was. I want to farm there, you know, trade from there, because as we see the future, this is just the start. If Cuba isn't planned, I remember in the beginning of this war, Turkey was in plans for some sort of hostile takeover or regime change. Escalations are not over. Whether even after this war or during this war, escalations are not over.
I'd love to visit Cuba, by the way, but that'll be another topic.
Well, I don't think we can go into Cuba, right?
Not yet.
How about you go to Colombia?
Can't even go to Venezuela yet, but Chevron's there. Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you guys for joining us today. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Coffee with the Candlestick Men, Coffee with Traders. And be sure to check if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do subscribe. Hit that notification bell. We have releases every week. On Mondays, we have the Bullionite Moment with the Bullionite, who is unfortunately not able to make it today. But he goes over specific trades and how to take advantage and how to protect yourself and your assets on Wednesdays. And today you'll actually get an episode a little bit later of Learn with the Traders with our very own Candlestick Men, where to discuss certain economic and how would you describe Learn with the Traders?
I mean, it's a brief overview of usually one specific ticker that relates to the broader market right now, right? The broader fundamentals. So it's really good to pay attention to get an understanding of, okay, well, they're going to give us one ticker, talk about it, analyze the chart, and also relate it to what's happening around.
Nice.
Action-based.
Action-based. There you go. Action-based. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's getting better. It's getting better every week.
Right.
Yeah.
By 80% of the time.
Yeah, it's not bad. And then Fridays, follow the money if you like conspiracy stuff or off the cuff kind of little mini videos. Definitely tune into that. So thanks again for joining us, guys, and have a wonderful Wednesday. Signing off. Boom. Oh.